Hey guys, we're
Yay.
back.
Yay.
Low Carb Book Club. We're doing chapters 4 through 8 today of Lies My
That was
Doctor
4
Told
through
Me by.
7.
Oh, was it? I thought it was
Yes.
4.
Yes, it was 4
Anyway,
through 7.
4, 5, 6, 7. So it's
that's
4 chapters.
chapters.
But
Oh, I'm
there's 4
sorry.
through 7.
I can't count. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so I guess I went through 8. So
You're ahead of
There
the
you
game.
go. You're ahead
for
of the
next
rest
week.
of us.
That's right. Okay, so anyway, chapters 4 through 7. So I need to change that in my description. Of Lies My Doctor Told Me by Dr. Kendi Berry. So guys, what did we think this week?
It was there. I had some ahas. I had some questions from some of the stuff that he wrote. So it's going to be interesting to go through. And the chapters are fairly short,
Yeah.
And so so it'll be interesting to plug through the different topics and kind of brainstorm some of the stuff he said.
Yeah. Let me make sure I've got mine open here and that I know which chapter we're going to.
Yes. Chapter 4.
Oh man, I hope that good. Oh man. Oh, okay. It's in chapter 6, so we're good. I was so worried. I wanted to talk about the wheat. The wheat's been my enemy for a long time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we will
Right.
get there. But chapter 4 is on bones.
Chapter 4.
Yeah. I love the little quotes he puts at the beginning, And so chapter 4's quote was, "The reason doctors are so dangerous is that they believe in what they are doing." And that's Robert Mendelsohn. So that's kind of scary. Well, but it's true. Like if you think about it, you don't want your doctor to be doing what they're doing because of a belief system.
True, because science isn't a belief system.
Correct. You want it to be scientific based and based on actual data, not their belief.
Yeah.
And so I agree. That's probably true.
Yeah. I was fascinated right off the bat, even though I've heard him say this stuff about milk before. It still shocks me every time I see it. I don't know. It's, the lie, drinking milk is good for you and helps your bones grow, helps keep your bones strong.
Yeah.
Milk is actually fortified with vitamin D, so it's not even so like they add it in there. So it comes with some, but I mean they fortify it so really the whole premise is based on the fact that they've taken a perfectly natural thing, and we can talk about how Dr. Berry feels about adults drinking, or people older than children drinking milk, but basing this whole recommendation, the milk mustache and all of that, on the basis of something that's actually fortified with the vitamin D. So it's not like milk naturally has the amount of vitamin D that they fortify it with. It's just like, oh, well, we can add it to this.
Yeah.
I know it was always taught that it was the calcium, that you want to drink milk because of the calcium. But I didn't realize that there's literally no research that shows that it actually strengthens your bones. And then he went on to say that it's actually the opposite, that the research shows that drinking milk can weaken bones rather than strengthen them. I was like, what? Like
what?
Yeah. I was like, what? I don't get that. Like, why I should be asking why, because obviously I think that we know why. It's not going to make certain industries any money if people find out that this is actually hurting them.
Well, and when he said, when compared to 100 calories worth of other foods, 100 calories worth of milk is revealed to be a very poor source of calcium. In addition, only about 1/3 of the calcium in milk is absorbable by the human body. The remainder is filtered from your blood by your kidneys and excreted into your urine. So not only is 100 calories of milk like compared to 100 calories of something else that has a lot of calcium, maybe cheese, leafy greens, almonds, sardines, it's not great in comparison to the calorie per calorie wise, But then only about a third is actually absorbed. So yikes, that's not great.
Right. Now, I mean, we don't know how much of those other foods are absorbed.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, his point is that it's only a third of the milk is even absorbed. And then he said that the countries with the highest dairy consumption have the highest rates of osteoporosis. The countries whose populations drink the most milk have higher rates of hip fractures as they age than countries whose populations drink much less milk. That was kind of mind-blowing to read.
Yeah.
Like, I realize it's an epidemiological, data. So, they always
so
say,
it's a correlation, but not, you can't really
correlation.
prove the causation. Yeah.
Right.
So
But
I was wanting to read this really quick, just like in the very beginning, because I think this is one of the most impressive to me paragraphs in here. And that was the common sense. Baby mammals are born small and helpless. To survive, they must grow and gain weight as quickly as possible. The milk of mammals is meant to do one thing very well. It is meant to help infant mammals of that species grow and gain weight very quickly. Human beings are the only mammals on the planet who drink milk as adults. No other animal does this unless humans give it to them. As soon as non-human mammals are mature enough to catch and digest other food, they stop drinking their mother's milk.
right.
If drinking milk in adulthood were truly healthy, then you would think at least one other species in the planet would do it. And this is my favorite. There would be some sneaky weasel who would steal into the nest of another mammal so it could nurse on the nutritious milk from its new mommy. But there is no such animal, even though animals will trick and mimic to get every other form of nutritional advantage. The common sense of this lie takes us back to the truism that just because something tastes good doesn't mean you should eat or drink it. So I thought that was very that's just so profound. It's like Dr. Berry's common sense, backwoods logic that you just can't argue with.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true that animals do go wherever they do what they need to do to survive. And so you're right. You would think that if the milk of another animal was going to be beneficial for them, it would be an easy thing to access.
Well, and they would actually do it because it's not like they can't sniff it out,
Right.
And animals will nurse on other animals of a different species as babies, but they won't do it as adults.
No.
So, because I had a mama cat who was hit by a car, and her kittens would nurse on the dog that had puppies. So it was all like one big litter.
Yeah. I wonder how appropriate as far as nutrient goes that was for the kittens.
I mean, it kept them alive. I would think it was pretty. I would think it'd probably be pretty similar.
Yeah, I know. We went to a wallaby farm in the area a while back, and they had kangaroos and had wallabies, and it was really fascinating. The guy who ran the farm was telling us that he had a little baby wallaby, which was so cute. We got to hold it, but he was telling us about the milk of the mother and how the baby, once it latches on, it does not detach until a certain age. It's latched on the whole time.
Oh my God.
Really?
Yeah, literally. And the milk is very specific to what the baby needs at that time. And at a specific time in the baby's growth, the milk ducts they switch and they change what they're producing. And the milk actually changes as the baby grows.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I hope I'm explaining this right, because it's been several years since we've been there. But I remember being blown away by what I learned about how that particular mammal, even their milk and their body, the mother's body, adapted and adjusted to the nutritional needs of the baby as it grew, which was mind blowing to me. But obviously once the baby was done, it detached and
it dropped off like a fat tick.
Dropped off, and there you go.
That is so funny.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
just
well,
wild. That I feel like one of my children was like that.
oh yeah. Well,
He
one of the
was
other things
literally
I learned.
attached for 16 months.
Oh my gosh, this doesn't have to do with milk, but one other cool thing I learned was that they can get pregnant, and actually, like, if they are nursing a current baby, they can
Mhm.
get pregnant, but then the gestation will halt until they're done weaning and their current little baby is weaned off, and then the gestation will pick up again.
Oh, wow.
Like,
Whoa.
I
That
know,
is
it's like, what? I've never heard
wow.
any other animal being like that. It
No.
was pretty fascinating. So anyways, I diverged from milk, but
No, that's
It's
incredible.
okay. That's a really cool fact though, you know.
yeah, it was so cool. But yeah, so I mean, I guess, he mentions here that human adults, are the only animals that
Mhm.
drink milk of another or at all. Um, but he also mentioned that as soon as the baby of an animal is weaned and can provide for themselves, they stop drinking milk. I'm assuming from a human standpoint, I'm just curious as to how that carries over to humans, because I would think that the ability to provide for your own nutrition would vary depending on culture. I mean, there's some cultures that, probably even old, thousands of
Yeah.
years ago, when the young men would probably join in with the hunt with the the grown men. And so how I was wondering, where in human development does the need for milk stop? Should it stop when mother's milk is no longer needed and
Hmm.
just don't bother feeding them cow's milk? I
I
mean,
don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think that a lot of, you know, as far as like the need for mother's milk, what is that really? Because we don't even know in this modern day, you know,
That is true.
we quit nursing our babies so much sooner than we
sooner.
would
Yeah,
if we were in a time where we didn't have other alternatives, you know.
that's true. That's
So
true. And I know that, here it's just so healthy, and the longer you can nurse, the better. But at some point,
yeah.
there needs to be a cutoff of, you know,
Yeah.
no longer
I
nursing.
think maybe when they get teeth or start getting teeth, maybe,
Well, I don't
that
know.
would,
Some of them get teeth really young,
They get
though.
teeth
My
kind of
yeah.
young.
next door neighbor, her kid had, I think it came out of the womb with teeth.
Oh,
Oh my
Lord.
goodness.
I mean,
Yeah.
he
I've heard
got
some
teeth
people say
super
that though
soon.
about teeth, because then I've heard of other people nursing until the kids are like 3 years old or something. And I don't
I,
know. I
I
think that,
think personally, like if you didn't have a choice, like if you didn't have any alternative but mother's milk, what you
mhm,
would do is you would nurse, and then the kid would naturally start wanting to eat regular food,
yeah.
and then they would kind of go back and forth for a while, and then they just decide on their own they weren't interested anymore, I'd say, you know. And that's kind of what
Yeah.
mine did. They would do it for comfort, you know, at
Yeah.
night only for a long time after they would finish, you know, like I would kind of wean them.
Mhm.
But yeah, we definitely have more of a choice now than I'd say they ever did in the past.
But I think it's better, at least when they're nursing longer, they are nursing the appropriate milk. They're getting the mother's
Yeah.
milk from their own
Mhm.
species,
Right.
you know, versus going over and drinking milk from a cow or a goat or whatever. And
Well, and then so many babies, they can't tolerate the formulas, and that's because it's not made for them. People say, well, oh, he just has allergies. Well, no, that's not the right kind of food
yeah,
for the baby.
You
I
know,
mean, breast milk is the ideal. Now, um, sometimes you have no choice. I mean, if the mother can't produce or just other reasons, you can't breastfeed, then, you have to do what you have to do. I've heard that goat's milk is a good substitute.
yeah, that's what Dr. Berry
yeah,
recommends, and that's what they
Mhm.
feed or what they give their children after they are, you know, just carrying a sippy cup around, you
Yeah.
know.
yeah. Well, I mean, he said that likely milk has something to do with the chronic allergies, dandruff, and acne that he suffered with. Um,
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that he said that there's a lot of inflammatory proteins in milk.
Yeah.
So it would make
I mean,
sense.
people think that the only
Allergy.
problem is the lactose
Right.
intolerance, but that wasn't the problem for me. The casein, well, it was either the casein or the whey, but I'm pretty sure it was the casein that was the problem for me.
Yeah. And casein, I never even really heard about casein until I started, doing the carnivore diet, and I started hearing people talking about casein, but that's just me. Like, I wasn't really into nutrition before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've now heard more people talk about having issues with casein. So,
and I think that a lot of doctors, as well as the people who make the food pyramid, they don't consider in their recommendations to full-grown adults that a huge percentage of adults cannot, they lose the ability in adulthood to, process lactose. So they can't make lactase anymore, the enzyme that breaks that down. So, why are we recommending this when a huge percentage of adults are obviously not even supposed to be drinking milk? And that's in their DNA, like that's in their genes. You can see that on a genetic report. So
yeah, my dad is
I don't get
lactose
that.
intolerant.
It's like they're just ignoring that. They're just acting like it doesn't exist. It's very strange.
And my dad couldn't drink milk at all. It would just make him nauseated and sick. And I was able to drink it some, but I've never been a big milk drinker. About the only dairy I have now is full-fat Greek yogurt, but I've never been much of a milk drinker at all.
Yeah. My daughter was lactose intolerant, and then it seems to have been turned into a full-blown dairy allergy. It used to just be like the lactase enzymes that she would take would help, and then they kind of stopped helping, and it was just like upset stomach. But now it seems like when she eats dairy, sometimes she even, like, her tongue will get numb and tingly, and she'll break out in hives, and so it's more scary. But yeah, it's I was reading the comment here from Cheryl about her husband, and I thought about one of the things that Dr. Berry said. So she said that her husband drinks 3 to 5 gallons of milk every week. Ooh. Yeah, it is better than Mountain Dew, I guess. But one thing that this made me think of something Dr. Berry said. He said that if you are going to drink a dairy product, drink heavy whipping cream. I was kind of surprised by that, but she said it has much less milk sugar and fewer of the inflammatory proteins, casein, and whey. That
I wasn't surprised by that because that's what he's always said. I followed him for like 7 years now, 6 or 7 years.
I haven't followed him as long as you have. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so for me, that was a new thing to hear from him, was to drink the heavy whipping cream.
And because it's not, well, the more fat, the better. And then also the less in the heavy cream. Like you said, there's less of the lactose and casein and whey. Well, and then are there some other milk proteins too that are lesser known? I don't know the names of them, but I've heard that there are other ones, but those are like the main.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. But I was wondering too, like with Cheryl, like, would your husband maybe start to transition into, like, maybe start with like half and half instead of milk, and maybe try to transition maybe more into the heavier, like, whipping cream? It may not.
I mean, I wouldn't think you would want to drink that, like maybe in your coffee.
But it may make you feel less like, I don't know, like it makes me wonder if you're drinking that many gallons of milk, like what is your body trying to tell you it needs? And I kind of always go back to that, like why do you want to drink that much milk? Is your body craving something? Is your body telling you it needs a specific nutrient that it's trying to get from the milk? I don't know. Or is it just that I love the milk?
And you that also cause problems with.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
it just reminds me, I did crave milk once, And that was when I was in the late stage of pregnancy with my son. And for some reason, for about 6 weeks, I could not get enough milk. And it didn't make me sick either.
Yeah.
And then, but
Those
after he
pregnancy
was
cravings.
born, oh, I joked that he just laid there and just got fat because he weighed over 9 pounds when he was born.
He probably did on all that milk.
So he was just chilling and getting fat, but I don't know why I craved it, but I did. And I've never been a big milk drinker. And just once I drank it for that 6-week or so period, it was like after he was born, I didn't want milk anymore. The thought just repulsed me. So
your
that's
body
just
was
really
wanting-
strange when you were saying that about what his body is actually needing. Because I'm thinking my body was trying to tell me something too.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Your body was needing something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe it's the fat, fat or something. But I mean, I was just wondering if maybe you'd either do half and half, like migrate to half and half, or do more heavy cream, that maybe there'd be more satiety and the need to drink so much milk wouldn't be there. Or
So
based on what Carrie says, maybe try a prenatal vitamin.
I have a question and a statement. The question is he on, a proper human diet? Is he on carnivore, keto, ketovore? Because I think that if you give your body what it needs nutrient wise, you're not going to crave all that. And you're not going to want all that extra sugar on top of like real food. And then two, I had a son who drank like about that much milk when up till probably he was 7. And I was really worried about it because you can actually get low iron from that, from over drinking milk. And as far as like the exact mechanism, I'd have to look it up. But yeah, we would have his iron tested to make sure that he was okay, because it can cause serious problems for you.
Yeah. Well, and if Mountain Dew is the alternative, it may be too that just wanting to satisfy the sugar craving, that milk, because milk has sugars. You know, the milk
I mean, I would recommend Diet Mountain Dew if nothing else, like, I mean, just try to get him away from the sugar.
And then, of course, with the Mountain Dew or the Diet Mountain Dew, Dr. Berry also has a tip where he was saying like that they would mix it with like San Pellegrino, like half and half, to wean themselves off of the diet drinks. He and Nisha had done that back, when they first got started. And so that might be a good thing for Cheryl's husband to do.
Of course, he has to be willing. So.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean,
if he's doing this, I'm guessing he's probably not eating the way that we are eating, but
probably
that's
not.
just a guess. What do you, Cheryl, if you don't care to share with us, what kind of diet he eats, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, definitely be curious about that. But, so no, this was kind of an intro. He uses milk like I do water. Okay. His diet is definitely standard American diet. Unfortunately, has no intention of changing, going to be 70 this year. Okay. All right. Well,
one good thing to tell him is that 70 is nothing for this community. We've got, people 70s, 80s, 90s, and they're looking and feeling better than they ever have in their whole life. So just give him that encouragement. And if he's, he has, like you said, he has to be ready to change. And I mean, unfortunately, anything that you say is probably not going to do anything but drive him further, but maybe set the example,
Yeah, very true. So, but let's see. I was also kind of surprised, and of course you listen to him all the time, but he was talking about that it's like it's hard, you'd be hard pressed to really find a doctor who's going to they only half-heartedly encourage breastfeeding of infants. And I mean, I don't know, I haven't had my daughter has been breastfeeding, and I don't know what her doctor said to her, but she really wanted to breastfeed. But that was kind of surprising that you would think that the doctors would be very much like, if you can breastfeed, you need to breastfeed.
I
It
think
was
that a
like,
lot of it now is to not make people feel bad,
mm,
and we're just in that era where we just don't want anybody to feel bad about anything. And while I'm not saying that you should feel bad if you can't breastfeed your baby, I mean, I personally had a baby that I feel like it was not reasonable for me to breastfeed him because he breastfed for 6 weeks and he would get these horrible stomach aches every night, like he was intolerant to my milk. And when we put him on formula, he would sleep like a baby, literally. And, I felt bad about it. I shouldn't have felt bad about it because that's just, I mean, it just happens,
Yeah.
There's some times that it's just more reasonable, especially in this day and age, to do formula. So, I mean, I don't judge anybody, but I do think that's why why the doctors don't push it a little bit harder. They want, they just want to make everyone feel comfortable. It's a lot of the same reason that they don't talk about obesity as much as they probably could. I've been obese for a long time, and I can probably count on one hand or on one finger the amount of times I went to a doctor and they've mentioned it at all.
Oh, me too.
They don't want to hurt your feelings.
Oh, me too. Which I found irritating because I was not just obese, but morbidly obese. I mean, where I'm weighing 350 pounds and the doctor doesn't say a word about my morbid obesity at a doctor's appointment, it makes me really wonder, because if they consider obesity to be a disease, then they should be talking to you about it, just like they would any other disease.
I think they can't win with that one, though, because if they say something, they're going to get attacked. And if they don't say something, then people like us are going to attack them. So it's like they can't win. So they try to just like tread lightly. I get it. I do get it, and also, I mean, there's that thing of like nobody who's obese doesn't know that they're obese. Like, I don't need you to tell me I'm obese. I know. I look in the mirror every day and see this. So,
and that's true. I mean, there are probably
about it.
Yeah, I mean, the people who they know it. And so harping on it isn't really going to help them. But at the same time, I think one reason maybe that doctors don't mention it is because the standard advice, I mean, if it's given, when it's given, I mean, it doesn't appear to work, or if it does, it's very short term. And so it's like, it's almost to the point where it's like, well, they're just stuck being that way, because the doctor doesn't know if they even talk about nutrition at all. They don't really know what else to say other than the parroted lines. So,
well, if
they are kind of in a rock and a hard place.
If they bring it up, they need to have a treatment plan.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I know that there are generally like, okay, let's refer you to a nutritionist or something, or a dietitian, which isn't going to be the solution. But I never had a doctor even tell me, let's get you to a dietitian. And
I've asked them to refer me.
I have asked them too.
To nutritionists or dietitians, and they have actively discouraged that on 2 different occasions, 2 different doctors.
Interesting.
So I don't know what the deal is on that, but you should use your resources.
In the long run. So interesting. Well, we're halfway through and we've only got 1 chapter. So
well, they're short chapters, so
yeah.
So you need to get moving on to the cholesterol.
I love this quote. The quote at the beginning of that chapter. That's a good one.
It doesn't matter how beautiful your theory is. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If it doesn't agree with experiment, it's wrong. By Richard Feynman. So very true. So I know we went over a lot with cholesterol with the obesity code. Did you guys have anything that jumped out at you in this chapter?
Refresh my memory real quick.
No, there wasn't. I mean, of course, he talks about Ansel Keys and the 22 country study that turned into the 7 country study. Because they didn't like the data. So, Dr. Fung, of course, had talked about that. And I think that's pretty common knowledge in our low carb, keto, carnivore community. But yet at the same time, every time I read that, I'm just like, the gall. And basically it was career suicide if you went against him.
Oh,
So that,
yeah.
he just like bulldozed his way through. So
He was kind of a bully from what I hear.
Yeah. Well, he did talk about how the normal, the normal levels of cholesterol
Yes.
kept going down, that it used to be 300 and then
300, y'all.
yeah,
Oh
then it
my
decreased to
God.
250, then 240, and now it's 200. And he said once studies funded by Big Pharma recommend lowering the upper limit of normal low enough, every single human on the planet will meet the criteria for taking a daily
Yep.
cholesterol pill.
Because we all have statin
Yeah.
deficiencies.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody has a statin deficiency. And
I have a statin deficiency and also I did have a what's it called? Now I can't even remember. Prilosec deficiency,
oh
but I
yeah.
resolved that. So
Yes. Yes. So yeah, he talks about how cholesterol is essential for all life. Every single cell in the body produces it. If it's like so bad, why are we making so much of it ourselves? It's so important for us, And it's funny, he said too that the conclusions of the AHA and ACC said that cholesterol is not a nutrient of concern for overconsumption, but yet
Yeah.
it seems to have not gotten into the minds of the medical community, because they're still pushing cholesterol medication on people. Oh, sorry, I have a lot underlined here. So the Japanese study that was from 2015 in the Annals of Nutrition and Metabolism found an inverse relationship between all-cause mortality and cholesterol levels. It means the higher your cholesterol level, the less likely you are to die from any cause.
yes, that was one of the fascinating
Yes.
parts of this book. That was just wow.
Yes.
The
So
higher the cholesterol, the less likely you are to die from any
cause. Correct.
And the lower, actually low cholesterol is a very
It
big
puts you higher risk for mortality.
risk of all cause mortality.
Yeah. So he says
So
very
yeah,
he says very low cholesterol levels are associated with an increased risk of dying. He says, as soon as you finish cursing and throwing things, please come back. And I'll explain why you've been told this medical lie so many times by your doctor and media outlets of every kind. And that's when he's talking about Dr. Keys. It's like, yeah, I mean, what a crazy concept. And you would think that the doctors would not want their patients to have a higher risk of dying, but
well, I just don't think they know. They've just had everything pushed from the drug industry, and
yeah,
that's what they do. They prescribe drugs, so they listen to those people.
Well, and I've been to those dinners that the pharmaceutical reps invite you to, and I never was when I was working in a hospital, but in outpatient medicine, I got invited. Like our whole medical group would get invited to these pharmaceutical rep dinners, and they treat you to some amazing food. And they go, high-end restaurants, and they serve everybody alcohol, and they put on a really nice thing for everybody, and they spend a lot of money doing it too. It's drug education, right? It's educating about their drugs.
Education.
Yeah, I've been to several. I've been to quite a few of those. And yes, they do provide the education on the drugs, but it definitely does, make you feel really good about the companies.
But that's for the tax write-off.
So, yeah.
If they just took you out, they wouldn't be able to write that off on their taxes.
Yeah, very true. And so the elderly people with highest cholesterol have better memories and less dementia than those with lower cholesterol levels, which is really important. So it's so good for the brain. Let's see. He said that he's noticed decrease in muscle ache, stiffness, and increase in energy levels with people that get off of their statins.
Beth says, on the flip side, keep in mind most people don't want to change, and when it comes down to it, my health is my responsibility. And we've said this so many times on this show.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, even if you can't feel too guilty about not saving the world when it comes to nutrition, because even if everyone out there had all of the information, they still wouldn't necessarily make the same choices that we've made.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But I was really encouraged by the fact that he said that with his patients, back when he was still in the camp of prescribing these higher dose, statins, he said that the patients were figuring it out. And he said that it was a struggle just to get them to take a lower dose. And then he said they would feign being allergic.
That was me.
Cholesterol medication.
I have listed in my chart that I'm allergic to all statins. And they'll say, well, what reaction do you have? And I'll be like, a really bad one. You don't want to know.
Panic attack.
Or aching muscles, which is actually a very legitimate, and forgetfulness.
Oh, that's actually what happened to me.
Inflammation.
I got to where, like, even after a couple of weeks of taking a statin, and I tried every single one they offered it like years ago. I could not even walk around work. Like, I would be walking and my ankles would hurt so bad, I would have to stop. I'm like, this is crazy. I've never had this pain before. This is so weird. And my joints would ache. And I just told him, you can keep them. If it means I'm going to die a little bit earlier from a heart attack, so be it. At least I'll be walking.
And now you know that it means you're less likely to die early.
Yeah.
Well, like when my mother was put on statins, I think I've told you all this story before, but my father called me. And he didn't know what was going on, but he says, something's wrong with your mother. She can't even remember how to check her blood sugar. Now, my mother had been diabetic for quite some time, and she did, she was just having cognitive issues. And so my first thought was, I said, well, is she on any new medication? And he says, well, I don't know. And I said, well, go look in the cabinet, bring the bottles and tell me what she's taking. And she was on a generic statin. And I probably overstepped. Okay, I overstepped. I just said, she's not to take that anymore. And he says, okay. Okay. And so she didn't. And then she, mentally she got better. Now, I mean, her diabetes was causing other problems, but mentally she got better. And it was that statin. So I told my doctor when it was suggested to me, I was like, nope, my mother had a bad reaction to it. It made her forgetful and stuff. And I'm not even going to put that in my body. And
it's poison to my system. It just,
well,
and I've told my doctor that before.
It's obviously poison, period, because of what it does to people. So this is an interesting comment. Like, first, obviously his blood pressure must have been elevated, but of course, if you're in pain, your blood pressure is going to be elevated.
Yeah.
Why would a doctor want to put you on a statin for the blood pressure and not like an actual blood pressure medication? Of course, and he drank Monster. So, I mean, drinking Monster is not good, but just pain alone is going to cause your blood pressure to go up. But that's kind of crazy. Like, to push the statins.
That is, I struggle to understand any kind of logic other than ticking off a box, maybe.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Did you offer him a statin?
That's what it is. It's the standard of care. They have to do that or they can get in trouble.
Oh yeah, and Dr. Berry mentioned that
not get their money. They can get in trouble with probably the medical board. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but
he said
I do know they have to follow the standard of care.
Yeah,
somebody has established that.
They're afraid of lawsuits and or medical board consequences. So, I mean, that's on page 74. He said he actually addressed that, as the why doctors aren't doing it.
Yeah. So that's why I can't be a nurse practitioner, because I could not, in good faith, give people prescriptions for statins. Like, I just couldn't.
Yeah. You probably have to go into
the research is not there to prove, that
more
we all know this, but just to refresh for other people, What is it? If you have had a heart attack, there's research done by the drug companies that shows that it can extend your life by 3 days. Okay. If you haven't had a heart attack at all, there's no life extension for you whatsoever with a statin. So, I mean, that's how I make my choice. It's on actual data, actual studies.
And I would be curious how that study came up with 3 days. Like, was this a long-term study?
That's pretty sad, isn't it? And then
I don't know, but this was a drug company study. So it's like, that's the best they could do with 3 days.
Highly suspect.
No, thank you.
Yeah. But then with Lipitor, you know how it talks about a 33% less incidence of heart attack, when taking their drug. And here's the thing, the people on one side I believe there were 3 who had heart attacks who did not take a statin. And then on the other arm, there were 2 people. And so it was in other words, it was a relative risk instead of an absolute risk.
And what was the actual sample size, the size of the control group and the test group?
Yeah, I don't remember, but
that could be statistically insignificant to have one more person have a heart attack.
Yeah, that's another one of those things where they use the either relative or absolute. I can't remember which one it is right now, but basically they use the one that makes it look like, they have a 200% greater when it's like, okay, or 100% greater when it's like 1 or 2,
Yep.
Right. Well, they're using relative. They're using relative risk instead of absolute risk. So if they were using absolute risk, say there's 1,000 people in each group, and you have one group there's 3 heart attacks, and the other group there's 2 heart attacks. Like, they're not going to report that, right?
No significant difference at all. Basically, there is just no difference.
Yeah.
But they use the relative risk to make it sound so much more profound.
That's right. It makes it sound a lot more significant. But I wanted to just at least bring up, because I know we have people listening and maybe on a statin, but he does bring up that, if you want to get off your statin, talk to your doctor about slowly decreasing the dosage. And he recommends taking a daily dose of coenzyme Q10, 200 milligrams, along with a statin if you are on a statin. And he said that taking the Q10 will reduce the muscle aches associated with the statin, and it's very good for your heart as well. So I thought that was at least some good takeaway advice. But I did want to mention too, like on his very end where he always has his do as I do section. So he tells what he's actually doing. But he mentioned that, and we know that he's on more of an ancestral diet, more meat-based diet. He mentioned his cholesterol levels are always within normal range. And after everything he said about cholesterol, I'm thinking, is that bad? Maybe he should be trying to get his cholesterol levels up. Is it bad to have your cholesterol level within normal range? Because nowadays that means it's under 200.
Right. And
that's associated with a higher risk of dying.
This is also before he went carnivore. And see, the same thing happened to me. I had high LDL anyway when I was like keto and then ketovore. But after I went carnivore, man, my LDL shot up to, just the LDL by itself shot up to almost 300. It's like 297. So, so it went up like 100 points.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that, and in light of newer research, and I believe that Dr. Berry said that they've gotten a book deal or something. They're actually going to rework some of the chapters in this book. So we might have to do this book again. Hey, I think he announced that last week.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
and Nisha's doing a book, and then they're also going to re-release the Common Sense Labs book and have the European measurements and that kind of thing, and some additional information too.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Nicole.
So, Kim, do you know, since you listen to Dr. Berry all the time, do you know, are his cholesterol levels up now? Are they higher?
They are.
Yeah.
His total cholesterol is pretty high. I think it's like 350
or something like that.
Yeah, it's like 3 something.
Okay. So at the time that he wrote this book, his cholesterol levels were within normal range, but he was also at this point, was he more eating like more of a
He
keto
was,
diet?
yeah, he was keto for a long time.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay, cool. So, all right. So chapter 6, wheat.
Oh, the wheat.
Oh,
chapter-
the wheat. That's
chapter you're
my,
excited about.
yeah.
And the quote says, "Does history record any case in which the majority was right?" I don't know.
Wheat isn't all it's cracked up to be. No pun intended. Pun intended, I guess.
Yes.
So the lie is wheat is a healthy food that is very good for your body. Everyone should eat multiple servings of whole wheat foods every day. You know, the healthy whole grains.
Heard that all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. And then let's see here. He basically says you'll be hard pressed to find a single authoritative committee or organization that doesn't consider wheat a perfect food. We're told that it helps in everything from cancer prevention to weight loss, especially products made with 100% whole wheat. You would expect volumes of meaningful research to be available on this subject, given the experts' wholehearted endorsement of whole wheat. But you will soon find this to be very untrue. And this is what I liked about this book. He would say the lie, and then he would say, this is the supporting stuff for the lie. That way you could it wasn't just like, oh, no, that's not true. I've got my evidence here. He looked for evidence. Like, where's the evidence? Let me find it.
Yeah.
And
in this case, he's saying you're not going to find it.
Yeah. And so let's see. It says there's no meaningful research studies suggesting that eating wheat, either whole or processed, is good for your body. Just because eating a plant causes no obvious short-term problems doesn't mean it's good for you long-term. And I'm trying to find the quote in here that I had to listen to 3 different times. It was just so profound to me. But then he goes into talking about the glycemic load and glycemic index, which I think that's important to understand.
Yeah, I did look up glycemic load because I wasn't 100% sure what that was. Because all I hear about is glycemic index. And I didn't even know there was an insulin index until we did Dr. Fung's book.
Yeah.
But so the glycemic load is how much each gram of a particular food raises your blood sugar. So it's basically quantity based.
Yeah. So it's more accurate, I think, than index on that.
Yeah.
But it does say, so the glycemic index of bread, which is what most people use as index. So that's why he's pretty much talking in index. The glycemic index of bread, whether whole wheat or not, is higher than that of table sugar.
Yep.
So, this means that eating 2 slices of bread will make your blood sugar increase faster than eating a spoonful of pure sugar. So if you think that's healthy, go ahead and eat your healthy whole grains.
Well, and he did also mention that this whole thing with wheat is one of these examples that he talked about with chapter 1 or 2 about the thought errors, saying that it's good for you because it's less bad than something else. And maybe it was Dr. Fung's book. He was talking about the studies that were done about wheat. They were comparing whole wheat to white flour and seeing that the whole wheat was better than the white flour. So it's basically less bad than the processed down flour. But so Dr. Berry's saying this is an example of this thought error, that just because it's less bad than the alternative doesn't mean it's good for you.
Yeah. So, let's see here. There was something okay. So basically, just in case anybody, I think most people in this community are aware of this already, but the wheat contained in all the food products on store shelves today is very different from the wheat of our ancestors. Today's wheat is a semi-dwarf hybrid wheat that was started starting to be bred in the 1960s, and it's become the only type of wheat and products today on grocery shelves. It has a much higher gluten content than older varieties of wheat, such as einkorn. Many experts are increasingly finding that this hybrid wheat leads to increases in inflammation, both in patients with documented celiac disease and in normal patients that don't have this condition, such as myself. It also can lead to the gluten and other proteins in today's hybrid wheat seem to contribute to gut inflammation and leakiness, both which can lead to body-wide inflammation and possibly even to autoimmune conditions. And I think that is evident in, just all of the rampant autoimmune disease we have these days. And, they're starting to understand about leaky gut, and mainstream medicine start to embrace it a little bit more. They need to hurry up and get on it, because it's a real thing.
Well, he talked too about it as part of an addiction, and that we can be addicted. And I thought it was really interesting. He said that research has uncovered convincing evidence that wheat contains substances that partially activate the opiate receptor in the brain, which causes activation of the pleasure centers and have addictive potential. So I was curious about that, because I know that when I was eating the standard American diet, like, I craved bread like crazy.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And like most people do, I think. Everybody you talk to will say, "Oh, well, I can't do that diet because I love bread." And I'm like, "No, you're addicted to bread."
Yeah, and even like the low
sure.
sugar it wasn't necessarily high sugar, but just bread in general. And so it makes sense that if it does activate that, opiate receptors, that would make sense. I was, before I started carnivore, I was making my own bread at home. And I actually had the wheat berries that I grind. And I did find that that bread actually sat better on my stomach
Yeah.
than the store-bought bread. And I also found that it didn't seem to trigger cravings. Like, I could just have one piece, whereas the other breads would trigger cravings. So I don't know. I don't think I even had, I don't know if it was, maybe it was the einkorn that I was using.
So has anybody tried sourdough bread when they weren't doing carnivore? I mean, like, tried making it?
I was in the process of growing a sourdough starter back when before I started carnivore, and I actually never got to the point where I made it because I started carnivore. But yeah, I had actually purchased an old starter that went back, I don't know how many hundreds of years. And I thought, oh, well, that'll be cool.
Wow.
And I want to learn how to make sourdough bread. And it was growing beautifully. And but I was feeling horrible. And so, like, with sourdough, it's such a long process to make. You got to have energy to actually make sourdough bread. It's not simple like regular bread. And not that regular bread's simple, but it's much more complicated of a process. So yeah. Have you guys ever tried it? Like,
I
making
haven't
sourdough?
made it myself, but
I've
I
never
love
tried to
sourdough
make
bread.
it. I've eaten some before that other people have made, several years ago. It was a big thing in my office back a few years ago. People were, like, they would give a piece of one starter thing to somebody else and then to somebody else. And so I never was ambitious enough to make any myself, but I was willing to try theirs. This was before
they
I
say
went,
that it's not as hard on, like, there's not as much gluten in it. So I was just curious if, of course, my addicted brain will always wonder things like this. It's like, I wonder if in the future, when I get really healthy, if I could ever go back to eating blah, 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 blah. And it's usually something I need to stay away from, like, clearly. But that's what an addicted brain does. And to also expand upon that thought, I found it fascinating. They said a newer drug being used to assist weight loss called naltrexone works by blocking the pleasure receptors in the brain. You know what naltrexone is? It is very similar has a sister, a cousin at least, called Narcan.
Yeah.
they are in the same, they're both opioid blocking medications. So what does that tell you, folks?
Narcan's
It's
what
literally like a drug to your
overdose.
brain.
But it's interesting. I read that, and I'm actually on a very low dose of naltrexone for my mast cell activation syndrome.
How does
And
that work?
but it's very, very low. And you know what? I don't know. I've read a ton of information about it. And I'm kind of wondering if it has helped. It seems to have helped my brain fog and kind of some of the neurological symptoms that I have with my MCAS. But if you look into low dose naltrexone, it's like 4.5 milligrams, and I worked up to it. So it's extremely low dose, and I have to have it compounded. But yeah, it's supposedly at very low doses they're finding do have some beneficial effects for people.
I knew I had heard of that. LDN.
LDN.
Yes. I've heard people talk about that. I just didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't make the connection.
Yeah, but of course, with me, I really am. My goal is to get off of all my medication.
I did that. I did that, y'all.
You did?
Yes, finally, I'm off.
Oh,
off
good.
everything.
Oh,
Sorry,
congratulations!
I'm not trying to change the subject, and but.
Well, that's my goal. And I've gotten off since starting the carnivore diet. I've pared it way, way down. I'm only on like 4 things, and I've got my 2 rescue meds plus my EpiPen, but I never need my EpiPen.
But you have such serious conditions as far as with your mast cell that, I mean, if you that could be a very serious detriment to you if you're not on it.
Yeah, I have to take it slow, and I can't just abruptly stop anything.
I mean, there are some medications that are, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there are some medications that are, they're not all bad. Like, some people need medications for certain conditions, and I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm saying, don't take any medicines,
Right.
I personally will not take any medications that I just don't absolutely need.
Right. And make sure that it's something that really is beneficial, and that it's not causing more harm than good. And, 2 of the 4 medications I take are compounded and have been shown, I guess, with people with my condition to actually be beneficial and helpful. But it's anecdotal. I mean, neither of them are going to be something that a regular doctor is going to prescribe. It's my naturopathic doctor that prescribed them for me.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I've heard people say I'd like to get off my thyroid medication because I was prescribed it, not because I was clinically hypothyroid, but because I had hypothyroid symptoms. And I'm starting to wonder if those hypothyroid symptoms were actually my mast cell activation syndrome. And that they put me on the thyroid medication for something that wasn't even thyroid related.
Did it make you feel better when you got on the thyroid medication? No. I have a lot of hypothyroidism symptoms, but every time I get my lab test, I'm normal.
Yeah.
Clearly I'm not normal.
Yeah. So let's see. So the doctor that used naltrexone implants with heroin addicts in Australia had his life and practice destroyed by medical science. Okay, interesting. So, and that was, I think, is it like 50 milligrams a normal dose of naltrexone?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure that about 50 milligrams is a normal dose when it comes to dealing with like like heroin or something, whereas I'm on 4.5 milligrams. So it's definitely subtherapeutic.
I didn't know that naltrexone itself was given for heroin. I mean, it's opioid blocking, but it's
he's mentioned an implant.
Naloxone is Narcan, and that's a fast acting. So I guess naltrexone is a long acting.
Naltrexone implants. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's in Australia.
I just heard people in other forums, and I can't remember the specific conditions that LDN, but I've seen it mentioned several times for people who were just having a difficult time. So it's off label for whatever they were doing it for, or needing. So I don't remember specific illnesses off the top of my head.
the naltrexone is used to treat alcohol use disorder and opioid use disorder, but it isn't used in overdose situations. So I guess it's more of like
Right.
a
That's the
Okay.
Narcan.
long-acting thing. Is that the one? Is the naltrexone the one that makes alcoholics really sick if they drink? I can't remember.
I forget the name of that, but no, it's not naltrexone. It actually is actually, isn't it like it's a name that almost sounds like it's the exact mechanism that it does.
This is a reminder to feed the cat.
Now we got to look this up.
Okay, I'll stop reminding
Alexa
you.
wants me to feed the cats now. So
You getting your reminder?
those reminders, I swear, I think they're more of a pain in the butt than anything.
It's like, not now.
Are you looking up this medication? Let's see. Antabuse.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
I remember
yeah.
I was like, I know it's the name. It sounds like it's mechanism. Antabuse.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's all I
that's-
remember. It made that impression on me that, oh, cool, the name actually makes sense. Which
Right.
most
So that's how it stops them from drinking. It's not a
Yes.
blocker. It's just it makes them deathly ill if
it
they
makes them
if they
sick.
drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
So, but all right. So weed is bad. Let's see. But yeah, so he did mention that the drug naltrexone works to block the pleasure receptors in the brain. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'd be curious to see if I went off of my naltrexone, if I'd have cravings.
Hmm.
You know, it is one of the things. Yeah, but I do feel like it has impacted and helped my brain fog and helped neurological issues. So I think I am getting some benefit from it with my MCAS. But hopefully at some point I can go off of it.
So I think that I agree with William.
Mhm.
I'm an addict of all things chemicals. Maybe not chemicals for me, but just like all carbs pretty much. And it's just a slippery slope for me. Like I can add in a few veggies here and there, but if I do it with any regularity right now in my journey, I just get like, my little brat in my brain's like, oh, well, you could eat that. Well, you could try that. Well, this wouldn't be too bad, and I
Right.
just like go.
My brain does the same thing. Yeah. And I'm with you. I wonder is there ever going to be a point where I can actually eat more, some carbs or something without having my mind do that to me.
I feel like once we're metabolically healthy, it may, I mean, that may just be like a pipe dream.
Yeah.
But at least I've got it.
It never
right?
hurts to dream, right?
That's right. I'll tell you what, this has nothing to do with the book, but I want to tell you guys something to see what y'all think.
Okay.
So I've been doing this Dexcom for a week now, and I have discovered that my sugars at night are higher than they are during the day. Do you have any idea why that would be with me eating mostly meat? I'm talking like 120s, like pretty much 120s to up to 130 at night. Why would my sugars be high? And when they would be like 105 to like 115 during the day.
Isn't there a mechanism of the liver that we talked about before that will, like, once you like spew out more glucose, it often happens during the night?
How is your sleep?
If your sugar gets low, I know that,
But not.
Are
But
you
I mean, why-
sleeping like through the night? Because I will
Yes.
tell you,
I
like,
sleep great.
oh, okay. Because
I mean, I think it's great.
Yeah, I will notice that if I don't get a good night's sleep, like for example, okay, the night before my physical, which was really smart, I went to see Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie. Okay. So I didn't get home till the wee hours of the morning, and I had to get up early in the morning to go get my blood work done. And my fasting blood sugar was now, and I understand that, I mean, we're talking about something slightly different, but he didn't seem too concerned about it because I told him that I had gone to see Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie. And so my A1C was good and my fasting insulin was excellent. So it was just, in other words, because I didn't get enough sleep, I was up too late and then had to get up early and just
I
that.
mean, maybe that's it. I stay up late, but I feel like I get plenty of sleep. And
How
I feel
late
like I sleep really good.
How late do you eat?
I mean, that might be part of it too. I don't know. But I mean, it's like what I'm eating though. Like I'm still eating mostly meat.
What if you like added more fat? Like the last thing you eat of the day was more fat heavy. I wonder if that would how it
No.
just is a like
I just don't
experiment.
understand like how like at first when I first got it, like at the beginning of the 7 days, I was, it wasn't that high. And then for the last probably 3 or 4 nights, it's been a lot higher, like in the 120s to 130s, and it's been all night long. Like before it was just it would spike kind of into the 120s and 130s as I got up, so I'm like, oh, this is the dawn effect, right? But it's just so weird.
You don't
And
have
like my
sleep
A1C is
apnea?
normal,
You don't have sleep
or it was
apnea?
before. Huh?
You don't have sleep apnea?
No. No,
No.
I've had sleep studies and everything.
Yeah, and you're
No.
not
And I sleep great. Like
dreaming and, going crazy with something, some adrenaline in your sleep with dreams or something.
So I have noticed that I've been dreaming again.
Oh,
Do you
interesting.
think it could be the stress on my body from just like not taking Wellbutrin anymore? Because it started all at the same time that I that I was tapering off of my Wellbutrin. And also I was tapering off of my Claritin. Because those were my last 2 meds.
Okay, interesting. So, yeah, I mean, I would be highly suspicious of anything that you changed right beforehand
Yeah.
as a
And
possibility.
what about your sugars during the day? Does that seem to trend with the way it was before versus so you're only noticing this at night, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like it my sugars during the day, I mean, they stay like around 112, 115 pretty much all day. 105, not bad at all. And this is just like I want to say this is just recently, but I've only been wearing this thing for a week. But at the beginning of the
Right.
week, when I was still like I was still taking. I don't know if I've taken my Wellbutrin, but maybe a few days before that I had quit. I don't know. It's bad because I don't write things down very much. I just try to remember it, and that doesn't work real well.
I really need to record things better. For whatever reason, like when I first started like keto and all of that, I mean, I tested my blood sugar all the time and I, kept a spreadsheet and did all this stuff. And then after things just kind of stabilized, then I didn't do it anymore. And then when I went carnivore, like kind of in the beginning, I got the, glucose meter out, realized that they didn't make the strips anymore for that one. And so I had to buy another one. But anyway, so, and started doing that. And I have a home cholesterol kit. And so I was doing that. But then it's like that kind of tapered off too. So,
well, I mean, if you don't need it, you don't need it. But then again, you don't really know what your sugar's doing until you wear one. Because I thought every time I tested my sugar, it was pretty good. But then I had noticed like it was a little more increased in the morning, but it wasn't as increased as it is like an hour after I get up. And that's I think I'm wondering if my cortisol has anything to do with it, because I've noticed around coffee, like it seems to be how it doesn't matter how I drink my coffee. I've never drank it just black, but it seems like it increases, and it even increases in the shower. Like my sugar will go up to like 140s as I'm in the shower for just like 5 minutes or so.
Well, it could be that the medications that you were on were masking what your body really was going to do on its own. And now that you're off of those medications, you're seeing that, okay, this is what my body's actually doing off of medication. Yeah. So it's something that obviously you're going to have to probably just trial and error, investigate and see, what happens, and does it actually stabilize? Oh yeah. So William says, had weird side effects off of Wellbutrin.
Wait, William, were the side effects on or off the Wellbutrin?
Got off Wellbutrin long ago. Weird side effects with urges to use yayo. What's yayo?
Yayo, that's cocaine.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay.
Oh, well,
I'm completely ignorant when it comes to I'm clueless too.
I've never done it before, so I don't know about that. But
oh my goodness, that's funny. So yeah, so who knows? It may have been going off of the Wellbutrin that could have caused an issue, and even interesting.
Maybe my body's just kind of like a little bit stressed right now from that. I mean, I have been on it for an awfully long time.
Yeah. So maybe
anyway. But let's get back to the book. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. This is a good discussion. I'm learning stuff. That's good. I like to learn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were talking about how weed impacts your blood sugar. And so it's a natural question to ask, like, hey, I'm not even eating any wheat and I'm having issues with blood sugar. So yeah. All right. So
and then it makes me wonder, like, if it's true how some people say if you eat too much meat, it'll spike your blood sugar. That's what I've heard people say. And I'm curious now if that's, I mean, I don't know. I have no clue. So I'm just going to be completely honest. I'm learning as I go.
All right. So chapter 7 is the pyramid of food lies.
He's not beating around the bush, is he?
No, that's what I love about Dr. Berry. He doesn't beat around the bush.
Yeah. So in his quote is by Mark Twain. It says, often the less there is to justify a traditional custom, the harder it is to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a quote.
Yes, it is. It's funny how these like really old quotes are still very relevant today.
They're very goes to show people really don't change over time. All right, so I'll read the lie. So the lie of this chapter is the USDA food pyramid and My Plate models offer the healthiest way to make food choices. If you follow them, you will have better health. So that is the lie. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's like, obviously that hasn't played out, right?
No, it has not.
No.
Yeah. Well,
there's no meaningful research showing that people who adhere to the food pyramid or My Plate models will have healthier body weights or better overall health. The federal government and every expert will, however, tell you to follow these guidelines.
Right. So he said that for 99% of human existence on this planet, humans have been slim, fit, and diabetes free.
Yep.
Yes, we as a species ate the amounts of grains and low-fat dairy that are recommended by the U.S. DA food pyramid and My Plate guidelines. Then we got sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So people did not eat the grains and the dairy and stuff. If they did, it was a different kind of grain, right? It was not the dwarf grains.
And they certainly didn't eat it in the quantity that's recommended today. I mean, good grief. I mean, they recommend pasta and the breads and just, it never ends. Just all this stuff, the whole wheat crackers and all those, grainy snacks and stuff. And so it's like, even if people were eating bread or something, bread was like an accompaniment with the rest of the meal. It wasn't the main thing.
Oh yeah. I remember we used to go to Olive Garden and I could eat probably 2 baskets of their breadsticks.
Yep.
Like just by myself. It was, really bad. But he did say that, the diets, we are basically healthy. Diets varied from region to region and from season to season. So there's not one single formula that we all must follow. He said, less important than what you should eat is what you shouldn't eat. So it seems like the more things that we shouldn't eat, it's like the food guide pyramid, it's very heavy on the things we should not be eating.
Yeah.
So let's see. Oh, I thought it was really interesting where he was talking about how understanding how the USDA runs, that big food and big agriculture got the final say in the guidelines. So they did this, the studies were done, but big food and big agriculture companies got to proofread and change some of the guidelines after the nutrition scientists had finished with them, but before the public saw them. So that was really something I didn't know. I mean, I should have suspected it, but they wouldn't just publish their findings. They had to get the input of big food and big agriculture first and let them change things. And obviously it must have changed even if it went against what the nutritional results. I'm curious to know what the actual nutrition results showed. I don't know, can we figure that out? Because we're seeing what the industries want us to see.
Well, there's that. And then plus, of course, it's probably more observational data rather than, actual true science, like, locking people up and, so to speak, and giving them a certain diet. You know what I mean? So I would just be interested to even see what studies they had to begin with. Now, I do know I've read Nina Teicholz's book, and she gets into a lot of this in her book, and even more about like the seed oils too. And maybe we can do her book next or
Yeah, I'd
at
be
another
interested
time.
in reading her
Yeah,
book.
it would be a really good one to do. But
Which one is that?
Nina Teicholz's The Big Fat Surprise.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. But I mean, this chapter really basically goes over what we know, right? About
Yeah.
about how there was industry influence over our nutrition guidelines. And
I just wish that everything wasn't so corrupt. Is it too much to ask that we could just have some guidance from, unbiased sources,
Right. And here's the thing, and I know that people say, well, people aren't going to change, and that's fine. They can, but that's freedom of choice. But if the powers that be would just be honest about
right.
all of this, about what is truly nutritious to eat, honest about, no, sugar is not good. No, we don't need to eat this many grains. And then we can make informed choices. Instead, if we have a health problem or need to lose weight or just whatever it is, I mean, if you go to a dietitian, you're going to get the, like Nicole calls it, lean and green diet that doesn't work for anybody.
Lean and green.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you may lose some weight on it initially, but then eventually
in
your
the beginning,
metabolism is going to
add anything
shift
back. I mean, anything, because you're eating, not only are you eating lean and green, but you're not eating that much of it either.
Yeah. And just like Dr. Fung said in his book, you're going to your body's going to respond to meat to balance it out, your metabolism, balance out how much basically calories in. It's just going to decrease your metabolism to that level.
Right.
And then once you start eating again, you're going to really gain it back quickly. We've all seen that.
You hear so many times, especially with people that tell their stories in the carnivore community, about how, a lot of them, their health journey started a long time before they even started carnivore. And a lot of cut out a lot of the processed foods and all of the, the sugar and all the bad foods, and did have some success with losing weight and followed the nutrition guidelines a little more closely. But so many times I hear that they still have inflammation. Their joint pain is still present. They still have gut issues. There's a lot of the weight may improve, but a lot of the health issues are still there. And, it's because of all of the heavy, like grain focused, of this pyramid. I mean, they want you to eat mostly grain products, fruits and vegetables. And, that's going to inflame you like crazy. Your gut, your skin, your joints. So,
and just the spikes in the insulin to deal with it. And I mean, there for a while, like Dr. Fung was talking about too, for a while you can produce enough insulin to keep that glucose down. But eventually that insulin keeps creeping up and you have to make more to get that, to get that glucose down in your blood. And I mean, it's just wreaked havoc on the whole country to an extent or another. And I've said this before, I truly believe that just about all of the illnesses that we have today are caused by diet. I'm just about convinced of it. The foods we eat now are even so much different from 100 years ago. I mean, it's just a very short blip. And of course, I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's just astounding when you look at the ingredients. Like you can pick up just once in a while, I'll do this. I'll just be in the store and just pick up something and just look at the ingredients. You can't pronounce words that I'm just like, I mean, one ingredient takes up a whole line and you're like methyldextroticaro, I mean, it's just this big long word.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
And it's just, and you're just like, dang. And so it's no wonder. But what's really funny, I remember back, let's see, it was several years ago, but my son has always been a nerd and I'm kind of a nerd depending. But anyway, I was telling him about, going keto and stuff. And I was like, because what we eat, really does. And he looked at me and he says, well, duh. And I'm like, well, I know, but it really had not occurred to me that it was that important. I mean,
yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So along those same lines, Carrie, you know what is really striking to me is that I have discovered, especially since being carnivore more than anything, because of it's such a great elimination diet. I have discovered that a lot of these allergies that I thought I had to, I'm allergic to every grass and tree. And okay, yeah, I may very well be on my allergy test. That's what it said. But that stuff's not blooming year round. I've been taking Claritin year round for years. And what it is something you are eating is causing this response, whatever it may be, the allergic type responses that required me to take Claritin. And I don't think very many people realize that if you would just eliminate sugar, seed oils, dairy, and wheat, you'll probably solve your not seasonal allergies, but your year-round allergies. Now you may still have some seasonal ones, but also I think with decreasing the inflammation, you're not going to respond the same. Your body's not going to react the same to the seasonal ones that it used to.
Well, you're going to drain your histamine bucket too as you eliminate foods, because there's a lot of high histamine foods that people eat. And so I mean, as your histamine bucket drains, you can handle stuff better and without reacting.
Yeah. And Lynn, that's why I think a lot of my problems were related to histamine. Not only did Benadryl at night help my symptoms most of the time, but it would always be like, I react to this sometimes, not every time. It's very weird. Anytime you have anything like that, it's like histamine, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, understanding the concept of the histamine bucket is really helpful to explain why you react to some things sometimes and not others. It just has to do with, is your bucket, is that one last thing going to overflow that bucket? And that's when you have a reaction. And if your bucket had got drained and because you have been not exposed to as much histamine, your bucket's drained. And then, I can eat this now. And I don't have a reaction. So why did I react to it this other time? Well, it has everything to do with, is your histamine bucket full or not? And it can be really confusing for people, because it's like, can I eat this or can't I eat this? Well,
I've been noticing a lot more people are having that kind of problem too. Like I've seen a lot of creators online talking about it and talking about how, some of them can't even eat any leftovers at all,
Right.
And what I usually do with my leftover meat is I'll freeze it because I like to have variety. So I'll freeze it and then I might take it out next week and take it to work with me. So it's just out of the freezer for a short time,
Yeah.
So it's not sitting in there for 2 days before I eat it. But I mean, I can still eat leftovers, but I think that probably does help for me to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Some people can't have leftovers at all, or they have to freeze them right away. And I can do leftovers if it's maybe a day. If it gets beyond that, I start to have reactions. So,
Sandra, that is something that you're trying to do that. And I commend you for trying to do that. And also, wish you the best of luck and just take it easy,
yeah, I tell you, with
take it slow.
with nerve damage, it's really challenging because, I don't know if nerves, some nerves they can heal or they can get better.
Mhm.
I've heard people having improvements with nerve damage on the carnivore diet, but I heard it also takes a lot longer.
And I've also heard that when people are trying to wean themselves off of, and I've heard this about alcohol too, like Dave Mack, but there have been others like who have taken themselves off of pain medications, medications that they thought they needed. When they were like ketovore, carnivore, especially, it was the doing of it wasn't as stressful to their bodies. It's like they didn't have the extreme withdrawal type symptoms that went with it. I'm trying to think of, I think Chris Palmer has talked some about that, and I'm sure maybe you could do a YouTube search and find others who have talked about it, but it is encouraging. So I do believe, Sandra, that you can do it.
Yeah.
I believe you can do it. And there are some videos out there. I'm just so sorry that at the moment I can't think. I know Chris Palmer has talked about that there are actually studies being done, like of people who are in like rehabilitation facilities and places like that, where and I think there was one that was done that was actually completed with alcohol. And there weren't that many people in the study. It wasn't like there were thousands, but I think it was like maybe 20 or 30 or something, but that all of them had a much easier time and less withdrawal symptoms when they were on very low carb. So
that's encouraging.
Yeah.
So, William, the hot sauce and pepper are high histamine. So,
I have noticed hot sauce because I'm a big hot sauce fan. Like
Me
even on my
too.
sardines, I have to have my hot sauce. And it's
so far I don't think it hasn't bothered me that I know of. And of course I don't eat hot sauce every day, but I do have to put it on my sardines.
And not everybody
has Frank's Red Hot.
Not everybody has a histamine issue. I mean, you probably don't have any histamine issues, but if you do have a histamine issue, yes, the hot sauce, pepper, white pepper. Now, if he really likes pepper, white pepper is low histamine. So if it is a histamine issue, he can probably tolerate the white pepper if he needs that spice. But yeah, no, the hot sauce, regular black pepper, no. If he's sensitive to histamine, then yes, I could understand.
I didn't realize that about black pepper. I need to try to avoid the black pepper. Well, first of all, I really don't feel like it adds that much, to be honest with you. Like I just
I've never been a big pepper person.
I just kind of do it out of habit,
Yeah, I think it just depends on how much you use. But
I was in the Air Force with this girl, and she was, let's see, I think she was Korean. I hate to say, but anyway, everything that we ate, she would take the pepper and literally just dump it. And we were like,
oh my God.
What? I mean, she would open it up and just dump it because it was not like what she was used to eating.
Wow.
I'm gonna
a man after my own heart, William. I love my Franks.
I'm gonna copy.
Love my Franks too.
I'm gonna copy this histamine list that I use into the comments. It's a really good one. Make sure that's it. It's a PDF form.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, but it's a food compatibility list for histamine, and it's like the most thorough one that I've ever found. And the people, I learned about it through my mast activation syndrome Facebook group. A lot of them use this and said that that they found to be the most reliable and comprehensive list. So if you think you might
Okay.
have histamine issues, this list will tell you. You can look up pretty much everything. It even
The
has
only
like
problem is
additives.
we can't like copy it. Like, I don't know. They might be able to in the comments.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
we do have we did activate the replay, right? So we can the
Yeah.
live comments will now show up on the replay. But if you
Yay.
look up, yeah, so if you want to just look it up, if you look up Swiss interest group histamine food list, you'll find it, and it's a PDF, and they have a website, and so there's a whole bunch of other tools and information there as well. And but that's the list that I use.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also
Oh,
linked in the description of my video.
we have an upright picture this week.
Oh,
Yay. My brain can make sense of your face now. I love it.
yes.
I definitely have tried to cure joint pain with turmeric and did not work.
Yeah,
So.
same here. Yeah, it didn't help me at all.
I used a
Turmeric's high
supplement that had
histamine.
turmeric, curcumin, and something else in it.
Probably
And it was
black pepper.
And it was it
Isn't
was
that
when
funny? It's black pepper that it's
yeah.
like one of the activators or something of it. I don't know.
Yeah. And it seemed, I'm not going to say it helped a lot, but it seemed like initially it did. And of course, this was also, I was probably like sliding into keto at that time. But then I gradually stopped taking the supplement and I got better because I had actually had surgery in my left knee back in 2002. Boy, it's been that long ago, 22 years. And so it used to give me a little bit of
Oh
a
my
problem,
gosh,
just
that's
like a bit of an
crazy.
ache. Yeah. So,
Well, you can still go to
I
Costco
did
and find
try
those
it for a
turmeric
while,
shots.
but
Did you ever at Costco see they have the sample? They have like those turmeric shots that you can
Yeah.
you can take.
oh,
And I think isn't turmeric like high in oxalates? I feel like it is.
Oh, it might be. It might be.
Because I remember thinking, that's weird. Yeah, turmeric contains oxalates. This can increase the risk of kidney stones. So basically, the consumption of supplemental doses of turmeric can significantly increase urinary oxalate levels and, cause you more problems than you like. A lot of these supplements and stuff I have discovered just over the
yeah.
years, just kind of studying this one, studying that one, wanting to find something that helped me. It's like you're not just something that you can put one isolated ingredient in and it just be like, oh, that worked, because it's kind of like our levels, you can't just look at a cholesterol level, because one isolated thing like that, you're a whole system with all kinds of intricate goings on.
Right.
Yeah, when I
it's not
first
that
changed
simple.
my diet back in 2015, I mean, I was taking bukus of supplements because I thought that was what I needed to do. Oh, I was taking fish oil, vitamin D, K2, which I still actually do take vitamin D and K2, but
Yeah,
I was
I think
taking
that
so
is a
many other things. And then gradually I just, dropped them until now I take magnesium, D3, and K2 now.
Well, I wanted to clarify. I just looked. Actually, turmeric is not high histamine. Turmeric is low histamine. So it probably is the oxalate. It's probably oxalate. Yeah, I mean, this list is so comprehensive. I need to go back and
Did
review
I say
it a lot.
histamine?
You said oxalates. So yes, it is high in
Okay, yeah.
oxalates. Yes. So maybe the oxalates that caused it to be a problem. That gut opening black pepper. I hadn't heard about that. That would open a huge can of worms. I haven't heard
So
anything
that
about
was what
wow.
it's. I don't know why, but they always say make sure you get the turmeric with black pepper, or it won't work right. Let's see here. I'm going to come up with recipes Googling this, but
so
like,
maybe
here's some black pepper chicken. So turmeric and black pepper have health benefits when taken together. Let me see. It increases, so the black pepper increases the body's ability to absorb the curcumin in turmeric by up to 2,000%, it says. Now, that's one of those numbers there that we're talking about that's kind of like a misleading,
Is this relative or absolute?
Absolute?
We don't know.
Yeah,
no, relative.
good.
Relative's a bad one, right?
Good.
Yeah, relative's the bad
relative
one.
can be the bad one if it's misinterpreted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you got to be really
So, I
careful.
mean,
So,
you know.
another thing that you can use in place of pepper that I have used is it's Nigella sativa, which is black seed.
Sativa.
I know.
That's
I'm thinking weed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is. It's a seed of a plant. So it's called Nigella sativa. But it's black seed. I'll just put that in the comments here. It's like very low histamine. And I'll just put it in place of black pepper. And I just roast it and I put it in a pepper grinder. And you can, just grind it over your food, and it has a very peppery taste. And it's like very low, if not like no histamine. So less reactive. So if there's a reaction to black pepper and you don't want like white pepper, then maybe that would be an option. There's supposed to be a lot of health benefits to it as well. So, because black pepper helps turmeric cross the gut. Well, it's probably because it's inflammatory.
Yeah, maybe it causes leaky gut. I don't know. We're just making stuff up now.
Well, I know that it inflames my gut. That's for sure. I mean, I end up with a lot of problems with black pepper. So interesting. Oh my goodness, all these things to learn.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, you guys want to talk about what chapters we're going to do for next week?
Yeah, let's do.
Well, I can't count, so maybe one of you guys should do it.
Well, you've already done 8.
8, 9, 10, 11.
So exercise. Chapter 8's on exercise. Chapter 9's on nuts, seeds. 10. Oh, well, let's give men prostate cancer. So that's a male chapter. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe what? 8, 9, 10, 11?
Yeah, that works for me.
Chapter 11 is on women and women's hormones. So that would probably be a good way to round it out, because we're going to be talking about men's hormones in chapter 10. Okay. So 8 through 11.
All
8
right.
through 11.
For next week. Awesome. This was packed.
Yeah, this is really good. I'm enjoying this.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if it does cause leaky gut, just because of your histamine. If you have issues with histamine, it could cause leaky gut, because it could cause a lot of inflammation in the gut. So maybe
it can cause leaky everything if you have too big of a histamine response.
Try to. Sativa means useful. Interesting. Hippo is always a wealth of information.
Yes.
But yeah, check out the histamine, the food list, and that might help you maybe narrow down if you're still having some issues. And if it is a histamine problem, it may help you narrow down what might be the culprits.
William is also very wise.
Yes,
this is so true. I mean, even approaching 50, I'm still like every day I learn something, and I just think, gosh, when I was younger, I just thought when you got to a certain age, just kind of knew things, you just knew most of the stuff there was to learn, but no, you don't. And the more that you just keep learning and keep trying to better yourself, and it's so important.
Yeah.
Or that as you got older, you had to feel worse, have limitations. Oh, this ache in my back, or just whatever it happens to be. And it doesn't have to be like that. And so I'm excited. I've told my kids already, I'm like, look, I'm going to be that grandma that's a pain in the butt that, gets those kids all worked up. And I'm going to be chasing them out in the yard and my great grandkids too. I'm going to be that.
Not the
grandma.
one that feeds them a bunch of sugar.
That's right.
No, we're not going to feed them a bunch of sugar. I'm just going to wear them out. Well,
and you can learn also while you're trying to do the right thing. And I had a perfect example of that over the past week, because I got a rebounder, and started using it, and it wasn't going hog wild crazy because I physically can't, but it was so
Yeah.
fun, right? And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
bouncing all over the place. You're just enjoying it and everything. And didn't know that it can like start opening up your lymphatic system and like releasing all these toxins.
I have heard that.
Really?
That's wild. That is wild.
Yeah. So like after a few days of doing all the rebounding and everything, I was like, oh, I feel horrible. And part of it was that I had actually like been doing a little dairy. So I think that was a contributor too. But I think this getting the lymphatic system flowing again too. I was like, oh. So I, trying to do something that's good for you, you kind of learn as you go too. So if you keep bashing your head, you will be brainless and useless.
What about
I
banging
try
your
not to
head?
bash
I
my
bang
head too
mine
much.
all the time.
Just
I
not
don't
up
know. I
against,
can't hardly do that.
not
Just
up
not
against the
against the
wall.
wall.
Awesome.
Well, guys, this has been fun, and
Yes.
I've learned something as usual.
Me too.
So it's wild how you can read the same material come together and then learn more, the way that other people saw it. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thanks guys in the comments for being here and supporting and keeping the conversation flowing. And I guess we'll be back next week for chapters 8, 9, 10, and 11. That's how I'm going to have to say it.
That's right.
8, 9,
10,
10, 11. 4
11.
chapters. 8 through 11. All right, guys. I think we're going to head out now. It is 6:40. We stayed past our time, but it was a good conversation. So we'll talk to y'all later. Oh, wait, one more thing. If you want to see us on YouTube, I am Nurse Kim. Let's see here at Nurse Kimberly Lane. Lynn is at Midlife Carnivore, and Carrie is at My Meat Morphosis with O in the middle. Come see us. We've got lots of good videos, and make sure you click on the live tab when you go to our channels, because I feel like those live videos get hidden there, which I really do not like that. But anyway, so check out our previous lives and our previous book that we did as well, which was Jason Fung's The Obesity Code.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There was some great discussion there.
Lots of meat.
Yeah, for sure. That was some difficult reading. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week. All right.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for
Bye.
watching.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.